seems to be so very far away. And in spending time with you, I realize God is in our love, fueling the fire of our lives from day to day. Lave, belave, heart and heart, when my hand stops, your hand starts, in a circle of love that has no end. Lave, belave, heart and heart, God's been with us from the start. In this complicated world, you'll need a friend, and so I'll keep you close to me. Lave, belave. When we listen for God's voice, we think we'll hear it loud and clear, like a giant clap of thunder from the sky. But in singing songs with you, it is the most attentive ear, knows that God dwells between the words for us to find. Lave, belave, heart and heart, when my hand stops, your hand starts, in a circle of love that has no end. Lave, belave, heart and heart, God's been with us from the start. In this complicated world, you'll need a friend, and so I'll keep you close to me. Lave, belave. Touch, we hope all pain will go away. In an instant, in a moment, be renewed. But as we work together toward that sacred, peaceful day, we learn that God heals each of us through me and you. Lave, belave, heart and heart, when my hand stops, your hand starts, in a circle of love that has no end. Lave, belave, heart and heart, God's been with us from the start. In this complicated world, you'll need a friend, so I'll keep you close to me. God will be with us, as together we will stay. Lave, belave.
Shabbat Shalom. It's Shabbat. So we should just take that deep Shabbat breath. It's the end of another week. Opportunity to renew and to refresh and to be with old friends or maybe new ones that you'll meet today. It's wonderful to be with all of you. We are going to begin on page 344 in our Sidurim. There's songs in the back there on page 344 with Shir Chadash. We will sing a new song.
So throughout our service this evening, we'll highlight some pioneering artists in the Jewish community, those who have expressed their LGBTQ plus status publicly. One of the earliest individuals to do that was Julie Silver. And if you join me on page 344, we'll begin our service with Shir Chadash. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai, Kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. One more time. Shiru Ladonai. To God a new song.
So June is Pride Month, and we have tried in various different ways for a lot of years to mark Pride Month in some way with a Pride Shabbat. We hope that we actually we strive to fulfill the values of what we do during Pride Month throughout the year, to be a welcoming, affirming, loving place for anybody who chooses to be a part of our community and to be there. But it's an important thing to mark especially and to share. And today, I'm going to, in addition to a few extra readings and some different music, I'm going to share 2 stories. Many of the last number of years, we've had guest speakers who have told their own stories. We don't this year. But what I'm going to do is share 2 stories of 2 colleagues who wrote their stories recently, early rabbinic colleagues who told their stories of being gay rabbis in the community. And I will share one, I'll spread those out, spread them in 2 different places in the service. And then I want to talk in a third place a little bit about, we sometimes think, hey, we're in California, and about some of the things happening in our own community that are very concerning, and what we might do about them together as a community. So that's where we'll go during the service. So it's going to be a little different. There's not going to be a teaching spot like there sometimes is. We're going to do it a little bit differently today. And I'm going to invite Chris Gacci, who anybody who's come to Shul Band for many years knows Chris, because Chris has been drumming for us for how many years, Chris? A lot. Okay. And I'm going to, Paul's going to bring you a mic. But I'm going to ask everybody who's comfortably able to do so to please rise. Chris is going to share a reading, and then we'll bless our Shabbat lights.
Okay, did it? All right. On this Shabbat of LGBTQ Pride, we welcome the Shabbat into our midst. On this night, we express the love in our hearts for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and gender nonconforming people everywhere.
We celebrate that we were created in the divine image. We pray on this Shabbat that all people will be able to escape oppression and taste the freedom of the promised land. As we light our Shabbat candles, let their glow light our way from the closets that still hold us in the darkness. Let the Shekhinah lead us with a pillar of smoke by day and a pillar of fire by night through any wilderness towards equality. May these Shabbat candles inspire each of us to holiness. Holiness. All right. Am I singing the song or? Okay, that's the burden. Okay.
Hold it with me.
All right.
Better together.
Yeah.
Stay here.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to continue. You may be seated. We're going to continue with Lecha Dodi, which you'll find on pages 20 and 21. But as is our custom, we're going to pause for a moment before Lecha Dodi for a review of the week, Hazarat HaShavua, to think back to last Shabbat and then go through the week till today and spend a moment on each day, its blessings and its challenges. And then we'll come back together to sing Lecha Dodi. Deep breath. We'll sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we get to verse 9, if you can comfortably do so, we'll rise and face the doors from which we entered to welcome the Shabbat presence and the Neshama Yetera, the extra soulfulness that travels with us during Shabbat into the congregation and into our hearts. And for those of you at home, thank you for being with us as well. But you can turn towards the doors of your home to bring that Shabbat presence into your home. Lecha Dodi, pages 20 and 21.
So this particular melody comes from a very welcoming congregation in Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, called Kol HaNeshama. If you ever happen to be in Jerusalem and you're looking for a friendly place to visit, that's one of our highly recommended locations. The train station, the old train station in Yerushalayim, is another one. There you'll find something called Nava Tehila, also very welcoming. And this is the way they sing it, at least at Kol HaNeshama. Lecha Dodi likrat kalai, alalai, 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 penei Shabbat, nehekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, yalalai, alalai, alalai, penei Shabbat, nehekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echan, Yishmeanu el hamyuchan, Adonai echan, u'shmo echan, v'shem ultiferet v'litchila. yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, Tehekabbelah, Lechadodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, Tehekabbelah, likrat Shabbat, Lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'makshva tfilah, lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, tehekabbelah, lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, tehekabbelah, Itoreri, Itoreri, Kimaure, Umi, Uri, 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 Shidaveri, Yevod Adonai, Alayich Nigla, Lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, tehekabbelah, Lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, tehekabbelah. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam simcha, uv'tzola, toch emunei, am segula, boi chala, boi chala, lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, tehekabbelah, lechadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 B'nai Shabbat, tehekabbelah.
We'll continue on page 26. You can stay standing as we continue with Chatzi Kaddish.
Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei Rabbah. Ve'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon u'vyom echon uv'chayedechol beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv veimeru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah nevara, ve'alam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach, yitbarach ve'yishtabach. V'yitpa'ar v'yidromam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha berichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, dushbechata v'nekemata, sha'amiran be'alma, v'imeru.
We continue. No, not working. Hold on. There we go. Okay. We continue with Baruch Hu, our call to prayer, on page 28.
Oh, am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Do you hear my voice? Can you understand? Oh, am I awake? Am I prepared? Yada die die die, 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 yada die die die. Baruchu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vaed. Leolam Vaed. Yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai lai, lai lai lai, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai lai, yada lai lai lai.
You can be seated. So one of my early mentors, rabbinic mentors, not early in my childhood, but early in me thinking about maybe this might be something one day I might possibly consider, was Rabbi Don Gur. I grew up at Temple Judea in Tarzana, and I remember I got a call. I was a CIT at Camp Swig the summer of 1987, which is the precursor to Camp Newman, and I got a message at camp from this rabbi, Rabbi Don Gur, who said, "Hey, I hear you're the youth group president at Temple Judea. I'm the new assistant rabbi, and I'll also be the youth group advisor. I look forward to working with you." And Don now lives in Israel. He made Aliyah, and when I was just there, we had dinner together, and we saw each other. This is his story in his voice. When I was ordained in 1987, all I could see in my future were doors that were closed. When I applied to the Hebrew Union College, I hid the fact that I was gay. I feared that being discovered would bar me from any opportunity to be ordained, let alone for me to find a position upon ordination. While the seminary accepted me, the doors to true acceptance was locked shut. When Evan and I first met, we hid our relationship. We did not communicate with each other at Hebrew Union College for fear of discovery. Instead of speaking at school, we left messages on each other's voicemails so that we could meet away from eyes that might lead to the doors of ordination being shut in our faces. I went into placement confident that I could only ever find a position in a synagogue as a closeted single man. When I did accept a position in the New York area, this was so Evan and I could be close to each other. He had one more year before being ordained as a cantor. The senior rabbi asked if I was gay. The CCAR at the time, the Rabbis' Assembly, had a task force on accepting gay rabbis, so it seemed like an innocent question. And with a quivering, soft voice, I said, yes. And he then told me he couldn't have me on his staff. He didn't want a rabbi who would be lying about his identity to the congregation, and at the same time, he wasn't willing to hire an out rabbi. The door that I feared would be slammed shut in my face did in fact close in an emotionally devastating moment. In follow-up interviews, I was careful to keep the door completely shut and avoid the question of sexual orientation at all costs as an act of self-preservation. I was complicit in keeping that door closed tightly. At Temple Judea in Tarzana, I spent many years as assistant associate rabbi, sharing a home with Evan, my roommate. We were careful to build an impenetrable barrier between our professional and our personal lives. When the senior rabbi position at Judea became available, I knew it was up to me to open the door so that I could serve the congregation with a sense of wholeness and integrity. Over the period of a few months, I met with congregational leaders, past, present, and future, to share my story and to come out to them individually and in person. None of them were surprised. All were supportive. Doors began to open. Rather than go through an open search, the congregation hired consultants to help them understand what they were looking for in their next rabbi. While they quickly reached the consensus that I would be a great match, I am told the more senior members of the congregation expressed concern that younger members would be uncomfortable, while younger members were nervous that older members might object. Over several months, my personal life was discussed openly by hundreds of congregants. Would Evan and I kiss on the bima? Would we dance together at synagogue events? It was more than uncomfortable and not at all an easy process. And yet, the door slowly creaked open. At the time, it seemed that I was the first openly gay rabbi to be appointed senior rabbi at a mainstream congregation, a story that was interesting enough for the New York Times to cover. While the synagogue celebrated, protesters attended my installation, and a famous radio personality spoke about abomination on his nationally syndicated program. While the door was slowly opening, there were those trying to slam it shut again. A number of years later, as same-gender marriage became legal, Evan and I at long last celebrated a chuppah surrounded by family, friends, and congregants. The Shabbat before our ceremony, we were blessed on the bima at Temple Judea, after which one family resigned. It turns out they were okay having an out gay rabbi, but they didn't want it shoved in their face. Eventually, despite facing hurdles, I was welcomed for 26 years as the rabbi. Not as the gay rabbi. I was blessed to share fully in the life of the congregation. And while the journey to full acceptance and welcome within the community wasn't an easy one, I never imagined during my time at HUC, hidden deep within the closet, that my career would be so fulfilling and so meaningful. While doors were closed to me along the journey, I'm pleased and proud that over the years, more and more of those doors swung open. The seminary that wouldn't have ordained me wouldn't have ordained me had I been out, invited me to teach and mentor students. The world of synagogue life that was originally closed to me embraced me and Evan in the end. That's story one. We'll continue with Shema Yisrael, which we'll find on page 34 and 35. I invite those who are comfortable doing so to please rise.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Page 36. Page 37. Let's read together. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. Ending with the last Hebrew paragraph on page 36.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Emet. We have another reading. I'd like to invite Jody to share.
God did not lead us by the narrow way, when Pharaoh let the people go at last, but round about by way of the wilderness, pillars of fire and cloud marking night and day, to the edge of the flood tide, uncrossable and vast. If God had led us by the narrow way, we cried, we wouldn't die here. Let Egypt oppress us as it will, let us return to the past. But we have come out by the way of the wilderness, in fear, on faith, free now, because we say, we are free, no longer the unchosen, that outcast. God did not lead us by the narrow way, but into rising waters, which do not part unless with an unstretched arm. We step forward and stand fast, round about by the way of the wilderness. We have come, blessed with love, lesbian, gay, or unsanctified in ways of our own, to bless our God. We did not lead us by the narrow way, but round about by the way of the wilderness. Shabbat shalom.
And our song of the journey, our song of freedom, the freedom achieved and the freedom still yearned for, Mi Chamocha, page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות O say fella Malchutcha ra'u vanecha V'keyam livnei Moshe u'Miriam Ze'eli anu Ve'ameru Adonai imlo le'olam va'en Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh Norah tehilot osei fele Norah tehilot osei fele Norah tehilot osei fele V'ne'emar ki v'adar Adonai et Yaakov ugalo yad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
we're going to continue now with Vishamru, which you'll find on page 44. This Vishamru is by Debbie Friedman, who probably did more to transform Jewish music than anybody in the kind of the folk era of Jewish music. This, as we've moved from a more classical form to a different kinds of Jewish music, really brought music to be accessible, mixed English and Hebrew in many of her songs, and this is a Vishamru that she gifted to us.
And one of the things you can say about Debbie is she leveled the praying field, which is one reason we love her so much. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam. Try that with us. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ve'ni uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Ve'ni uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Ki sheishet yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash ve'ni uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Ve'ni uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat ledorotam berit olam.
So another mentor of mine in the rabbinate is Rabbi Denise Ager. Denise just had a big party last week because she was retiring from the congregation that she founded just a few years into her rabbinate, congregation Kol Ami in West Hollywood. And so they threw a big bash to celebrate her and what she's done for the congregation. But Denise's rabbinate was never really just about congregation Kol Ami. She really had an expansive rabbinate, and you'll hear a little bit about it in just pieces of it in her words, but I knew her through the local Jewish community and through PAR, the Pacific Association of Reform Rabbis, where she was always somebody who was there as a sounding board for me and an encourager and really a phenomenal mentor, not just to me, but to dozens and dozens of younger rabbis throughout North America, but particularly in Greater Los Angeles. She just wrote this, so you'll see at the beginning. Excuse me. Okay. As we observe Pride in 2023, I'm reflecting on many aspects of my LGBTQ+ rabbinic journey. I'm particularly nostalgic as I'm retiring from my pulpit soon. My entire rabbinic career has been serving the Los Angeles LGBTQ+ community. When I was ordained a rabbi in 1988 by Hebrew Union College, it was still a time when you could not be an openly gay or lesbian rabbi. There was not even a discussion that transgender people could be part of the equation at that time. The College Institute did not ordain openly gay or lesbian people as rabbis. It was a burning question and issue in the mid to late 80s within Reform Judaism. What was the place of LGBTQ+ Jews in the community? Could LGBTQ+ Jews be religious leaders? And all of this against a backdrop of a horrible AIDS epidemic that was killing gay men in droves in this country. My rabbinate unfolded against this backdrop, fueling me to become an advocate and activist for LGBTQ+ rights in society and LGBTQ+ rights in our rights, R-I-T-E-S, in our Jewish world. There were many closeted LGBTQ+ people who were already ordained, but only a handful who were openly gay. As the Central Conference of American Rabbis and the Hebrew Union College were actively debating the ordination of gay and lesbian colleagues as rabbis, there was a resolution at the 1990 CCAR convention in Seattle. There was to be a resolution on fully accepting lesbian and gay rabbis at the 1990 convention in Seattle. So in advance of the convention, my coming out story ran in the Los Angeles Times, helping to give a face and a name to the cause. There was no turning back. I stood at the bedsides of countless young men dying of HIV, feeding them and visiting them when they had no one, when their families had rejected them. I advocated for gay youth who were often thrown out of their homes. I did training for Jewish professionals, social workers, and other community leaders about how to be more inclusive of LGBTQ+ community. We made connections with the Israeli LGBTQ+ community, supporting their efforts, and worked with the first openly lesbian Tel Aviv city councilwoman, Michal Eden, who opened the LGBTQ youth center, Beit Dror, in Tel Aviv. We raised money for Beit Dror, as well as provided resources to train their social workers in Israel on LGBTQ+ issues for youth. These are but some examples of my rabbinate. Over the course of the next 35 years, I would push the boundaries of inclusion for marriage equality, both in our reform movement and the larger Jewish world, and the society at large. I performed the first legal same-sex marriage in California in 2008, when the California Supreme Court found same-sex to be legal in the Constitution. I would do over 60 weddings during that summer of love, before voters in November 2008 took away the right to marry until the federal government granted it again in 2015. There are many moments of memory, including becoming the first openly LGBTQ+ person to become president of the Central Conference of American Rabbis in 2015. One story from that moment that most people don't know is that even with all the progress on LGBTQ+ civil rights in society and the liberal Jewish world by 2015, the day I was to be installed as president, a credible death threat was made against me. At the convention, I had to have a bodyguard. This wasn't the first death threat that I received, and I have received many. What worries me most today is the climate of hatred and harassment and rolling back of civil rights for our LGBTQ+ community, the particular focus on the dehumanization of transgender people and trans children and their families in many states, and the threat to marriage equality, the rolling back of hate crime laws, the attack on women's reproductive health, harkens back to the time when I became a rabbi. Our reform movement will need to stand strong and tall for LGBTQ plus rabbis and their families. Our reform movement will need to stand strong and tall for our LGBTQ plus congregants and members and in the larger society, and use its power and voice and moral suasion to be the advocates we need. May this Pride season inspire us to speak louder, to fight harder for justice, and to be proud of queer rabbis and family and friends and community. We're going to continue with Adonai Tzvatai Tiftach, which you will find. Oh, yeah, Randy, please. Sorry about that. Randy's going to talk about the music he's going to play at the end of our Amidah.
Shabbat Shalom to everybody attending tonight and out there online if you're watching. The lyrics of the song I'm going to play tonight, True Colors, certainly resonate with the theme of tonight's service. True Colors, written by Billy Steinberg and Tom Kelly, originates from 1986. It was originally sung by the pop vocalist Cyndi Lauper. Many of you have heard of her for other songs. And Cantor Paul just informed me that today is her 70th birthday. So pretty cool, pretty timely. I'm not going to go through all the lyrics of the song, but the words do express encouragement and hope to a person who feels discouraged or overwhelmed by life. The singer wants the person to know that they see their true colors despite the darkness they feel inside, and that they should not be afraid to show them. And one could certainly make the point that the message of True Colors is not specifically towards sexual orientation. It could be applied to anybody who feels outcast, outlier, not belonging. But the song has been embraced by the gay community, and I will be playing a jazz arrangement of the song momentarily. That's it.
I'm going to invite Gail to be ready, so come on up, Gail, and we're going to start on page. Well, you said you were doing BTI. No, you're not? Okay. Come on up. We're going to rise, if you're able. Okay. Adonai Tzvatai Tiftach. All right. You're going to lead us. Page 46. And as close to the mic as you can be.
Adonai Tzvatai Tiftach Ufia Gitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
48.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zoher Hasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Megedula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Ve'Avah, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah.
Page 50. Atah.
Gibor L'Olam Adonai, Mechayech Kol Atah, Rav Le'Oshia, Morid Hatah, Mechayel Hayim Behesed, Mechayeh Hakol Berachamim Rav, Somek Noflim Ve'Ofer Cholim, U'Atir Asurim, U'Mekayeh
Page 52. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please continue silently with the text of your heart or the words of the prayer book through page 62, 63. When you're through, you may be seated. Thank you, Andy. So first, a few reflections, just that it wasn't so long ago, right? Things change very quickly, right? Sometimes in different directions, not always in the same direction, but it wasn't so long ago that we had voters in the state of California, right, vote to outlaw same-sex marriage. When we had a group from Temple Beth Israel in the Claremont 4th of July parade every year who marched for marriage equality, where there were still people who got mad in the congregation when I'd speak about it. Not a lot, but a few. Most of those people are in very different places today in their own lives. And as we, grow to know and love people who identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community, hate is difficult up close, right? When we have caring, loving relationships with people, whether it's anti-Semitism, whether it's Islamophobia, whether it's hate of LGBTQ folk, whether it's whatever those things are that are out there, proximity matters, and visibility matters, because then we know that we're proximate, right? Because we were always proximate. We just didn't know it, right, in those ways. But, that's the good news, right, is that we're in a very different place. Even, I've only been here 19 years, so it's not like we're talking about huge span of history, but a lot has changed in that period of time. And yet we are seeing, right, a backlash in American society at this time. I was just on a call. So 9 states, the 9 states with the most Reformed Jews have state organizing projects. Okay, so people know that I often take teens to Washington, D.C., to the Religious Action Center, and we do national lobbying issues on national issues. But the Religious Action Center also has projects in 9 states. And those states are done by where they're the most Reformed Jews. California was the first state, and then New York and New Jersey, Ohio. There's also Texas and Florida. And we were all talking about the different issues. And the Reformed congregations in Texas and Florida are, really working and really struggling with the anti, mostly focused toward trans kids these days, but beyond that, in other ways, with book bans and things like that, anything that is represents the experiences of LGBTQ plus people. And what I'd also like to say is that while we're insulated from some of that in California, at least at the state level, that just locally here in our community over the last few months, there have been challenges. The Bonita School District, not very long ago, had a group of families who were trying to ban a bunch of books and take them out of the library. We're just talking about Laverne and San Dimas, right? Just down the road. And now it ended up being rejected. The books were rejected, but they have to wait a certain number of months before they can bring the same things. But they will try to ban books that reflect the experiences of LGBTQ youth. And just 8 days ago, the Chino Valley School District, I didn't know about it till after, because one of our congregants was there protesting at the meeting and posted it in their social media, and so I saw it. But they brought two resolutions. One they voted on and one they postponed, but will probably vote on. The first resolution they brought was to ban any kind of pride flags from any classrooms in the Chino Valley school district, so in Chino or Chino Hills. And the second thing that hasn't been voted on but probably will come, and I'll try to let people know because now I'm paying attention. I wasn't paying attention a week ago. Is that they postponed the vote on is a requirement that teachers report to parents if a child, if they hear that a child is gender nonconforming or transgender or is asking other kids to use other pronouns or things like that. So, real threats to the dignity, the safety of LGBTQ plus kids. And, just down the road. And don't think if you live in Claremont or if you live in Glendora or if you live anywhere else, there aren't people within those communities who are Rancho Cucamonga, wherever it is, that there aren't people within those communities who are also trying to remove books from the libraries and to stop certain representation from being in the community. So it's really important that, I always say that for anti-Semitism, people say, Rabbi, anti-Semitism is growing. What should we do? And I say, well, there's lots of things to do, but on the personal level, we should be out and proud Jews, right? That we should stand out there in the community as proud Jews, and that's one of the ways that we confront anti-Semitism. And I think with the things that are going on in our community here, we need to be out and proud. Whether we're part of the LGBTQ plus community or not, we can be out and proud allies, friends, community leaders, whatever that is, because people's humanity are being attacked. So that's the bad news, right? That, even in our bastion of California, right, where, on the state level, there's not going to be legislation, local school boards and communities, people will do that. And of course, we also need to be part of a nationwide commitment to, it's not okay just because our kids may be safe in Claremont, that kids aren't, safe in other places, right? And it's all of our responsibilities. So I don't have a master plan here. I just, this is mostly new in the last week, not the big things going on, but the local things in our community. But it'll be important for us to be able to be voices in those communities. It's really important. One of the things that is so true when on our state project we're talking to assembly people or state senators, or when our kids go to the Religious Action Center, is that many of these legislators rarely hear religious voices. People who say, my faith tells me that it's important, that these are important things, that seeing people, everybody created in the image of God is a core Jewish value, right? They tend to hear that people who use faith voices tend to be people who are on the right, on the cultural right, in the culture war. And so it's important that they hear not just Jonathan Kupitz's voice, but Rabbi Jonathan Kupitz's voice, and not just your voice, but Reformed Jewish person's voice out there too, so that they understand there are actually lots and lots of liberal people out there, Christians, Jews, Muslims, others, who care about these issues and can speak with a religious voice as well. And so I hope that we will, and I'll end paraphrasing Rabbi Eger, who said, May this Pride season inspire us to speak louder, to fight harder for justice, and to be proud of all the LGBTQ folks in our communities, in our families, and to continue to work for a better world. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi. Your words, not just now, but also earlier tonight, brought me back to New York, where I lived for about 25 years, and I lived for a number of years on the corner of Hudson and Christopher Street in the West Village. And I had the opportunity, one I wish I never had, to live in the West Village in New York before AIDS, during AIDS, and after AIDS, and watching the devastating impact of that terrible disease on that community, on people I knew, people I loved, and people who didn't in any way deserve the terrible disease to be foisted upon them and their whole community the way that it was. And it also brought me back to the Village Temple in the 80s, which was one of the two pioneering synagogues in the world, really, that openly welcomed gay and lesbian individuals. And so I want to thank you for those memories. And I want to invite everyone to take a look at your song sheets. The second one on the page, we'll do the first one as a closer tonight. I think you'll get it. I won't need to teach it to you. Wherever you are, wherever I am, we are more than woman or man. Wherever you are, wherever I am, we are more than woman or man. I met a girl in Ohio. She told me she had rainbows in her eyes. Rainbows in our eyes, we'd see where love resides. Rainbows in our eyes, the color multiplies when love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. There's a light shining through us. We are kaleidoscopes of hope. Helps us all to see what love can truly be. A gift to set us free, pure and holy. And I see you right beside me. There's never been another one like you. Do you see me right beside you? Holding on to this spinning arc of green and blue, where love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. In the end and the beginning, faithful loving light never dimming. In the end and in the beginning, faithful, loving light, never dimming. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Zocher habrit v'ne'eman, Vivrito v'kayam v'mamoro. Whoa, whoa, love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Let me hear your voices. Love is love is love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Love is love is love is love. Love is love is love. Love is love is love is love is love. Wherever you are, wherever I am, we are more than woman or man. Wherever you are, wherever I am, we are more than woman or man.
We turn to page 253. As our thoughts turn to all of those in our lives and in our community who are in need of healing, of body, of mind, of spirit, join in words of healing. Those in the congregation will have an opportunity to mention names of those you're thinking about, and those at home, you can mention names in the chat.
O Holy One,
who blessed our mothers, who blessed our fathers from ancient days, bless and heal those in our hearts, and hear our prayer as we say their names. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem,
Lehachzikam, Ulrapotam, Veishlach Lahem, Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, B'toch Sha'ar Cholei Yisrael. Oh, bless and heal those in our hearts, and hear our prayer as we say their names.
We ask for blessings upon Rebecca Gilman, Hannah Fields Austin, Sue Toback, Rosalind Efkowich, Helen Weinfeld, Pam Poliakoff, Kathy Blumenfeld, Caitlin Antrim, Jennifer Rudin, Brad Holland, Serena Postal, Robert Strober, Marilyn Lubarski, Joan Morse, Nomi Kravitz, Craig Sachs, Myra White, Lori Snyder, Charity Razaday, Mike Klein, Barbara Fass, Joel Beasy, Gloria Foster, Rita Warshaw, Robert Gerard, Adele Harris, Brenda Found Gerard, Ron Freelander, Jan Marcus, Marla Fragoso, Al Shapiro, Jeff Nelson, Gina Eli, Robert Waldman, Barry Gustafero, Yudit Gratz-Delang, Eva Laxon, Alda Mendoza, Mitch Samuelson, Sharna Blitz, Eli Wakefield, Rob Scher, Audrey Kubel, Deborah DeLang, James Stead, Rita Elias, Benjamin Jones, Stephen Gilbert, Sharon Zaki, Nell Baror, Karen Rosenthal, and
HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem. Oh, bless and heal those in our hearts, and hear our prayer as we say their names.
Now, some words from our president.
Sorry about that. Shabbat Shalom again. I'm going to throw away all our usual thank yous to our clergy and to our wonderful Randy, because I hope you'll join me in expressing what a wonderful, rich service this was in honor of LGBTQ plus, to our commitment to this community and our integration of this community and our love of this community. So thank you, Rabbi, for the stories and for your call to action. And thank you, Cantor, for the wonderful music, and to Randy for that wonderful explanation and jazz rendition of that terrific song. So thank you for that. I also want to thank Chris Gacci for a beautiful job with that reading and the candles, and Gail Stevens-Levy for leading us. Thank you. And to Jody, we're so happy to have you read that. On a more foodie note, thanks to Toyasha Sabag, our current ONEG coordinator, who provided a lot of the wonderful things you'll be eating shortly. And of course, to our sound woman, Claudia Gonzalez, thank you so much. Also, to tonight's greeters who welcomed you in, Kylie Sykes, Sharon Regalado, Phyllis Blackie, and Judy Rose, most of whom are now preparing the challah and the food for the ONEG. As you know, we gather to enjoy the blessings and to eat together and socialize. Try tonight, I will, to talk to someone you don't know. It's part of who we try to be as a inclusive and friendly place. So, as you know, we have something for everyone at Temple Beth Israel, and you're reminded of that every Thursday when you get the tikiyah, and the beginning of every month when you get the Kehillah, which has so many activities brought to you by your fellow congregants and the people on the board. So find what interests you, and in that vein, I'm going to just mention three things very quickly. One is your renewal packets. For those of you who haven't sent them in, please do it when you can. Your renewal pledge of your financial support is very important. It really is what keeps us going. But also, there are 2 volunteer forms. If you would take a moment, if you're interested in getting involved in all of these, in one or more of these activities, please fill out the form and you will be contacted by someone on the board. If you're on a more fun note, if you're free on Sunday at 3 o'clock, we have a wonderful group who brings bunco, which is a very fun, easy card game of sorts. And there's food and socializing, and that's here in the social hall Sunday at 3. Also, this coming Wednesday, we have a new fabulous group of congregants who are doing mahjong. And that's 1 o'clock on Wednesday in the same place, for those of you who don't work or aren't in school and want to have a little fun. But it's not all fun and games. So we watch for interesting and varied events and classes from Adult Jewish Learning and WTBI and our other organizations yet to come. Shabbat Shalom.
Anything you need to add? Nope. It's unusual. I said, anything you need to add? You said, no. I was like, wow. All right. We're going to turn to page 282, the middle of the page, for Aleinu L'Shabeach. I invite those who are comfortably able to do so to rise.
Aleinu l'shabech ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עצרנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
The backside of your song sheet. Let us now remember those who have gone before us and have helped make us who we are today. We pause now for moments of memory for those who came before us, the ones who personally stood up and were counted, and made a difference for all of us today. We remember you, whether by combating an ugly word against another or through the personal act of coming out, whether by challenging the system or by changing it from within, whether by actively sharing your ideas with broad audiences or quietly affecting individuals one at a time, whether by looking outward to help others understand us or by looking within to help make ours a better community. Through all of these courageous actions and so many more, every time, you brought us forward, even under the pressures of physical pain and torture, of economic devastation or political failure, of social estrangement or worse. You braved it all, each of you adding your essence, your talented endeavors and elegant movements, your clever words and dignified existence, your dedicated hearts and focused mind, your infectious smile, your quirky ways. In all, your persevering spirit brought others forward behind you and moved all a little closer to a world that more fully celebrates love. Your contributions are remembered. You are remembered. And your memory is a blessing. So we take a moment to remember some of those from our own community, those who have died in recent days or at this time in years past. We remember the recent death of Van Jacobs, cousin of Bernard Karmatz, of Lawson Spicer, husband of Marla Spicer. We remember the Yortzites, the anniversaries of the deaths of Raymond Feig, Esther Morrison, Mabel Shapiro, Harry Estrin, Helen Goldfarb, Henry Hank Krieger, Henrietta Rosenberg, Ida Schall, Jean Schaefer, Herbert Herb Rosenzweig, Belle Salin, Adele Smolin, Rebecca Harris, Phoebe Schneiderman, Shulamit Shabtai, Dr. Myron Michael Glovsky, Julia Cooperberg, Edward Schneider, Ann Unger, Sam Braverman, Ezra Beldner, Sadie Mandel, Joseph Pawlotsky, Evelyn Woljan, Barney Arzt, Zachary Champagnier, Audrey Durso, Charles Labe, David Lewis, Joyce T. Rosenbaum, Louis Rothbart, and Alan Silverman. If you're remembering somebody and you'd like to add their name to those I've mentioned or restate a name I've mentioned, please feel free to do so as I come by your row. For those of you at home, please feel free to mention a name in the chat. If you're in a time of mourning or observing a yard site on this Shabbat, I invite you to please rise. And I invite the rest of the congregation, if it's your custom, to rise and embrace in support of those who mourn. Kaddish can be found on page 298, 94, 294. Please join with me. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah bi'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayachon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agalau v'izban kariv v'imru amen Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dukudasha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata dami rambi alma v'imru amen Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael V'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. Do you want people to stay standing?
Yes.
Stay standing.
Stay standing, maybe connect with your fellows if you feel comfortable with that. We're going to conclude with the top song on our song sheet. And Rabbi, did you, is it? Yeah, Chris, did you want to come up or are you doing it? Are we in F, Debbie? Lower's better if you want to do that. I'm happy in D if you're happy. What can you do, F? All right, well, we'll do what we can here. We are a gentle, angry people, and we're singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we're singing for our lives. Justice seeking. We are a justice seeking people, and we're singing for our lives. We are a justice singing people, and we're singing for our lives. Young and old together. We are young and old together, and we're singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we're are singing, singing for our land. Land of many colors. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Hey, that's true, isn't it? We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Gentle, angry, one more time. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Please join us in the social hall for Kiddush, Motzi, refreshments. For those of you online, no Kiddush, no refreshments for you, but we hope to see you soon. Thanks for being with us.